Morant with a running start. Elevates. Oh, it dunks. Oh, my goodness.
Tie game in overtime. Gasol will turn his heat. It's gone. Memphis on top. 7 tenths remain. Conley now a three. Count it. A 15-point lead for Memphis. And Blake Griffin gets into it on the floor with Randolph. Hard to tell if there are any punches being thrown under there, but Griffin took acceptance.
Adams going long. Morant. He hit it. John Morant, insanity.
You gotta be kidding me.
Welcome to Grits and Grinds, a Memphis Grizzlies podcast. My name is Keith Parrish. On today's episode, I'm joined by the Daily Memphian's Grizzlies beat writer, Drew Hill. Drew, how's it going, man?
It's going well. I was just telling you that I just moved very recently, so I'm working in a makeshift office right now. As you can see, I have like moving boxes and stuff all over. So yeah, it's if you're on the pod and you're not watching on video, then you can't see, but it looks like a bomb went off in here.
Yeah,
that's
Drew
okay.
just showed the YouTube viewers his a little. Is this was it a bedroom? I saw a dresser.
It's a bedroom.
Oh yeah. So we saw some boxes, things. If you hadn't moved the camera, it looks like you're hiding in a closet because there's just a door behind you.
It kind of does. Yeah. Someone should let me out.
Should you have, I don't want to criticize your life choices. Should you have moved or gotten done with the moving before training camp started?
This is a great story. This is a opportunity for me to bag on my apartment complex.
Okay.
That was considered. Yeah.
Yeah.
We went to go move into the apartment that we signed a lease for, and it just wasn't available.
Oh,
they didn't have it.
Yeah.
So they had to put us in a temporary apartment, which, I mean, they tried to let us out of the lease, in fairness to them, but we had to move out of our house because we had already sold our house.
Yeah.
So they tried to let us out and go somewhere else since, they just didn't have the apartment that we signed the lease for. But it was too late. Like, we had already had a moving truck, whatever. So we had to take a temporary apartment. We lived in that without unpacking, like, basically anything for an entire month. Don't ever try to do that. That
sounds awful. Yeah.
And so then we moved again a second time. So this is apartment number 2 within the last month. So
gotcha. So you made the proper plans. This was not lack of, hey, I would love to be moving while the Grizzlies are practicing and having daily things I have to go to. Yeah.
Suffered a setback. Yeah.
And I also, I am sympathetic to the, hey, we can let you out of the lease. And you're like, well, I need somewhere to live.
Right.
That's nice of you, but I would love to have somewhere to sleep and take showers. Hopefully it all works out. Hopefully you get unpacked and then you can all settle down, feel comfortable at home. You are obviously in Memphis and have the benefit of being able to go to these practices, media availability. What's a thing that you're observing there that I'm missing out on, that our listeners are missing out on? What are some observations that you've been able to take from these practices and just the media availabilities that you think our listeners want to know?
Sure. I mean, I wrote a little bit about this after the first day of practice. It does seem to be a little bit more serious. Not that, it wasn't serious a season ago, but like when you walk into a practice gym, or into their practice gym in particular, you don't always see Tayshaun Prince leaning against the rail watching intently. And every day we've been able to see that. And a lot of times guys are joking around, and Steven's almost guaranteed to be joking around. So you do see a little bit of that, but it does feel a little bit more intense, especially since, Ja's not doing the media. So Ja's typically one of the guys that's in there laughing, joking around after practice. I haven't seen much of that. So I would say that it is a little bit more intense. And look, a lot of it is coach speak in terms of this practice standard thing. Like, they're not going to say that they're going to lower their standards for practice. Come on. I mean, like, let's be real here.
Right.
But there is probably more legitimacy then you might think to this idea that maybe this team needs to be able to practice better. Because even last year, as they're, going through the season, I wouldn't say that they were a bad practicing team, but I mean, you heard it from Desmond Bane almost at the end of the season, where it was almost as if they started to take things for granted a little bit, because this is a team that had a lot of success the season before, jumped to the number 2 seed, kind of thought it was going to come easy for them the next season. So that standard, or whatever the Taylor Jenkins called it, the non-negotiables, which to me, my ears perked up a little bit because it suggests maybe some things have been negotiable, right?
Yeah.
The non-negotiables have slipped a little bit. And I think everything that they said at the end of the season kind of aligns with this idea that they have to take practice more seriously and need to be a better practicing team. And you hear that from Taylor Jenkins himself, we have not been nearly good enough in practice. I think it kind of gets to the point that this it needs to be more serious. I know the team is young, but it needs to be a little bit more serious. And you can kind of get that vibe from being there early.
So I've heard this talk as well, where they're saying, like, I think Desmond Bane was like, that was one of the most intense first practices since I've been here. And then there's this talk about, we got to make changes. We got to take things a little more, like, use the word seriously. Like, is it just the natural thing to say? Like, if you're looking for something to change, like, you could imagine a team. Yes, no team's ever going to be like, hey, we got to practice less hard. But I could definitely see like a team coming out and being like, hey, the game is a game. We want to enjoy ourselves. Maybe we need to be a little more loose. Let the guys, like, we don't want to like stamp out their personalities and make it too serious. So I could see it going the other way. If, like, if you lose in the first round again, they're like, hey, we turned the dial too much. We are going to go back to having pregame dance videos in the hallway. That's my big question. When we talk about the changes, are we getting rid of the pregame dance? The Tyus Jones, Dylan Brooks led, obviously they're out the door. No more Kennedy Chandler in the front row. Are we getting rid of the pregame tunnel, silent dance videos?
I think we are. I think we're getting rid of that.
Oh no. Oh, our boys are all grown up.
Not, but I saw Dylan had already brought it to Houston.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, that might be a Dylan thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, like, I get what you're saying, and I think that's a good point. And look, I don't want this to get lost. Like, I think that they're still going to be the Grizzlies, right? They're still going to be this team that is a little bit brash, is out there.
We will make up a narrative where they somehow reflect the fan base no matter what they do. It's what all sports people do. I hate to break it to Grizzlies fans who think there's some intrinsic value of, like, oh, they're hardworking like us. It's like, that's right. That's every fan base, guys. Okay.
Yeah. But I think you're still going to get the Memphis Grizzlies that we know.
Yeah.
This is mostly a practice thing, right?
Okay.
Like, everybody's got to show up. Like, look at the record on the road last year. So bad. It suggests that maybe it could have been that they could have been better in these instances, right? You're on the road. You got shoot around between games. You got practice because you got a day off between. Like, these are the days to get focused and be better. And, like, it's kind of crazy too, because you look at the early in the season, if you look at their schedule, and I think everyone's tired about talking about the first 25 games, but it's just the reality of
what we have to do
here is like, they have a lot of game. I think they were fortunate to get some middle tier games at home that are winnable games against opponents, like the Pelicans and that or the Mavericks or that middle tier.
Yeah.
They also got a decent amount of games against the bottom tier of the league, or at least of the West, that you would think: Houston, Utah, Portland. Those games are on the road. Like, if you're a bad road team again, you're risking those first 25 games going very poorly for you if you can't figure out how to be better on the road. So I took note of that. And as much as we kind of want to say, yeah, they just need to go 500 or whatever, you could also, and if they go 500, they'll be fine, and they'll come out of this, with a chance at being in a playoff spot. But, if that first 25 games don't go well and you're trying to make up ground, it's going to be really difficult, because I think, you look at the schedule, and as I just mentioned, it's very manageable. Well, it's like, all right, you get your best player back. but the schedule's about to get a lot more difficult. So to me, it's like it's do or die these first 25 games. Like as much as we're all tired of talking about it, they are critically important for this thing going the way that they hope it does.
Yeah, it does. It seems very manageable. I mean, you mentioned those mid-tier teams, Pelicans, Mavericks. Like besides that, the Nuggets, the second game, like those are the hard games. Basically, it does look very, very, very.
I think there's only like four or five elite
yeah.
teams when I broke it down. There's like the Nuggets, the Celtics, the Suns.
Yep.
And there might have been one more, but I don't remember.
When we add a more serious attitude to our Grizzlies team, was that what John Morant was reflecting in his media day photos, where it's all, I like it, it's all serious, no smiles. I like it that like, hey, we got to button down the hatches here, and he's like, oh yeah, I got you, say no more. And then he goes into the media. I like it. Listen, I'm a no smile guy. Like, hey, if default, if we take a photo, I'm just giving you the straight face. Like that's what I do. And then if we're smiling, okay, it's a smile photo. You have to specify.
What does make you smile, Keith?
Dude, everything makes me smile. I'm a happy
Anthony
guy.
Melton.
I'm a happy guy. Dude, Anthony Melton, eight 3-pointer, eight steal games while we're having a Grizzlies watch party, and he's doing it on ESPN for the Sixers. That's bad when that's my season highlight of last year. It's funny. I'm sorry. We talk about last year being bad only because of the first round. Like you lose in the first round and it just like it erases all the good. They were the 2 seed last year. Yeah, they won fewer games. They had the best home record, not just in their franchise history, but like it was the best home record in the NBA in the last 5 or 6 seasons. And so there was a lot of good, but of course there was weird off the court, and then you lose in the first round. And now it's all like
injuries.
We have injuries. Yeah, Brandon Clark going down. Literally, I haven't smiled since Brandon Clark got hurt. That's if you want to put it back to that. Like that was like. I think I tweeted as such. I was like, well, if that was the Achilles, like the night of the game, like if that was just an Achilles tear, I have no more joy. Cause like, that was like, I'd already lost my favorite players. And I'm like, I think Brandon Clark's my last remaining favorite player. And now it's like, well, this is ridiculous. And so now, yeah, I'm kind of bummed out. Speaking of injuries, one of the big storylines for training camp is Steven Adams' health. You guys were pestering him with questions yesterday after practice. Like, how's the knee feel? What's he saying about his health and how it's holding up so far?
He seems to be the least optimistic of all of the people that have talked about Steven Adams' injury, which is bizarre because typically a player's like they want to get out there, so they're going to be the one that kind of says, "Oh yeah, I'm good. I feel good. I'm ready to go. Knee's great." That's not what we've heard from Steven Adams. I would put these kind of in tiers too. Like you had what Taylor Jenkins said, which is he's good to go, top, he all the way back, Steven Adams. Then you had what Zach Kleiman said, and that was somewhere in between what Steven and Taylor said, which was, yeah, we're going to be careful with him. We like how he looks right now. We just got to be cautious. And then you have Steven who essentially admitted he thought it would be irresponsible to say that he could play in a full NBA game. That was on Media Day Monday. According to what Taylor's had to say, his teammate Steven himself, the first 3 days of camp went really well, which is encouraging, right? He played in the scrimmages. They did limit his reps, but he did every single drill. They said he looked like regular Steven Adams, throwing his weight around and, using his broad shoulders and rebounding everything. And so all of that is very encouraging. I was asked what percentage do I think Steven Adams is on the floor as a starter in game 1 of the regular season. And at first I said, like, I don't know, 70% maybe, because it seems like they're suggesting that Steven is going to be ready for the start of the season, but this whole careful, and I don't know if I could play in a game right now thing is weird. So maybe 70. And then Taylor Jenkins got asked, and I know we'll get into this later, but like Taylor Jenkins got asked about potential starting fives, and he kind of just threw Steven in there as one of the 4 sure thing starters on day 1. So that kind of raised the percentage a little bit. And then I think you hear him talk yesterday. You hear Luke Kennard say, yeah, it just looks like normal Steve-O to me. That probably makes me a little bit more confident that he'll be ready for the start of the season. I just want to see him play in a preseason game, man. They won't commit to him playing against the Pacers on Sunday.
Yeah.
And historically, Taylor Jenkins has used his starters and all the regular rotation players in the first preseason game. So if he's not out there, like that confidence level's, I think, gonna decline a little bit. But all we know at this point is that he's cleared to play. He's playing 5-on-5. He's scrimmaging and he's looked good. So
Yeah.
it's you have to be optimistic about where he'll stand when the season gets here.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Like, I agree with you when I hear the quotes that I'm like watching on YouTube. It's like, Steven seems the least confident out of everybody. And like, even after practice on Thursday, they're like, you guys are like, hey, are you playing Sunday? He's like, man, I'm hard to say. And I understand that. Like, he just got done with practice. You guys to wait to see how the knee feels when he wakes up today on Friday as we're recording. And it's like, all right, that's going to be the big question mark for the team. The other big question mark is, of course, like that fifth starter. And we had the open practice on Saturday. For those of you in Memphis, go to the FedEx Forum, check it out. First preseason game against the Pacers on Sunday. We're going to get, I think, our answer right. Don't you think? Like, we're probably going to find out like what their first thought is. What are you reading between the lines of what Taylor Jenkins has been saying? I drew a strong conclusion based on something he said a couple days ago. I listened to you and Chris Harrington on the Daily Memphian's Grizzlies podcast, and you guys were talking about like this thing he said about like the fifth starter. He mentioned defense. He's like, we got to get a defender, and then he kind of said and 3-point shooting. And it was that
we read that differently.
Well, I was listening to you guys read it differently. I read it a total of the third way. For me, so recap, you guys were basically being like, so I think that means like probably Roddy or Zaire and maybe not Kennard.
He said Zaire and I said Kennard.
Okay. So, I read it as not Kennard. I read it as like saying defense first and talking about it was like, and also the way Kennard on media day. And again, we're just guessing based on like sort of how they answered questions. We're reading into it. For me, I thought Kennard's like, oh yeah, he's six man. And so, but maybe not. You guys were saying Zaire. The way I heard it was, he's just talking about Conchar. Like the way I heard it was, which is like no one gets excited about it. I know everyone is like getting hyped. Grizzlies fans are all on the internet getting hyped about media day photos. We're like, look at that photo, man. We got Derrick Rose and Marcus Smart and John. They're sitting on stools and Steven Adams. Look how talented we are. And it's like, guys, I want the same energy when John Conchar starts on Sunday. Like I don't know, because like he's not the guy that gets people hyped. He does not get, I think most of the fan base, like we're looking for the ceiling. We're looking for, man, we thought Zaire, like what if he turns into Paul George, or something like what if he developed, like that was the idea when you drafted him, of course. And then you're like, well, Roddy LaRavia year 2, man, we'll get that breakout. It's like, I heard we got to have a defender. We got to have some, and then some shooting. Like, I was like, whoa, that's probably Conchar. And Conchar saying on his media day, there's an opening at the 3. I want to go get it. So maybe I'm off.
If you are correct, Keith, there's going to be some frustrated fans. I'm not
saying I'm like that isn't my guess. But when I heard that quote, I'm like, oh wait, is he talking about Conchar?
That's an interesting way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
And okay, so I look at this a few different ways. Now that I'm thinking about it, my brain's going 100 different directions.
Sure.
Part of the reason why I think it would be Kennard is because personally, I just think that it makes the most sense, especially when Steven Adams plays, because you have a great high post passer, and like go look at what Steven Adams did with Desmond Bane. They were awesome. Now add another guy on the floor that can space the floor, and I think that it opens up a brand new dynamic really that they're going to be able to use. And so to me, that logically makes the most sense. It's what I would do if I was Taylor Jenkins. But you're right. He did. And I went back and listened after Chris and I talked about it. He did mention defense first.
Yeah.
They kind of view all these different guys as different defenders. Like, you're right. Maybe he is talking about Conchar. I know at one point last year, they were like hoping that David Roddy could be like Dylan Brooks light in terms of defending, just like
he's our LeBron stopper.
Right. That's what they wanted. And so maybe, I guess, if you wanted to find a way to get to David Roddy through reading between the lines, maybe that's your way to navigate to David Roddy. And then Zaire, his rookie year, they used to talk about his off-ball defense all the time. We really love his off-ball defense. We actually think he's a very good off-ball defender. Needs to have a little bit more strength when he's on the ball. And then last year, the season just didn't go the way really anybody expected it to go for him. And I think a lot of it had to do with that knee. Even though they're saying he is not injured. But I think that in the end, I mean, maybe you're right, but in the end, to me, it just makes the most sense to play Kennard. And he did get to 3-point shooting. To me, it was almost as if like, yeah, I'm going to talk about defense because I know defense really matters and I care a lot about defense. But I'm going to backtrack and I'm going to get to 3-point shooting because I want that door open for Luke Kennard. That's how he's navigating it here.
And of course, I think all of us, like, we're most excited about seeing Kennard and Bane on the court together. And like, I think we're all, coaching staff included, excited about playing Marcus Smart, Desmond Bane, Luke Kennard with Jaren and Steven. Like, those are our best 5 players who are available to us right now. And I think that's what we all want to see. The question is that how they start the first quarter? Is that like what they go to? And also, speaking to the defense thing, you had Zaire talking about like, oh, I want to be a all defense first team like type of guy. And it's like, oh, really? My cynical nature when they're like, oh yeah, Zaire's great off the ball. That's one of those, like, it's like, well, there's no tangible. He doesn't get rebounds, steals, or blocks, and isn't really that good one-on-one. It's like, oh yeah, but it's off the ball. It's like, all right. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to compliment something that I can't easily track down.
I did a podcast with Sane last week or earlier this week, and he kind of has the same skepticism as it relates to Zaire. And like my thing with Zaire is I get it. Like, I understand why everyone is frustrated with this situation. I can't quit Zaire. It's like Justin Fields, right? I'm a Bears fan, okay? The Bears won last night, first time in basically a year.
Yeah.
And I can't quit Justin Fields because I just look at Justin Fields and I'm like a 6'3" guy with a cannon arm who's fast as hell, who, yeah, he takes a lot of sacks, but when he does get the ball out, looks amazing. Well, with Zaire, it's like, man, that jump shot looks good. I don't know why it's not going in, but that jump shot looks really good. And yeah, he is 6'10", and he's kind of a leaper. And so I can't quit Zaire. I just find myself thinking, gosh, this guy has got to be the best option. He's got to be your future there at that position. But he does. It's time to prove it on the court now.
Yeah. There were some talks about changing the offense in addition to the way they want to change practice. Let's get into that right after this short break. I want to tell you guys about Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is a whole new way to play fantasy sports for cash. They have every sport. Also, depending on the state you live, you can play higher or lower against their stat projections and really bring home some big paydays with their specials and multipliers. So if all that sounds appealing to you, sign up now using promo code FBBF, and they will match your first deposit up to $100. That is promo code FBBF, as in Fast Break Breakfast, for a match of $100 on your first deposit. Sign up for Underdog Fantasy and use that code FBBF to get a free $100 on me. All right, so at Media Day, Taylor Jenkins said he wanted to change the way he's going about teaching the offense, and he said they needed to focus on different things. Of course, there's a new offensive coach here. And then after practices, he's been talking about, like, we got to work on our second gear, which is 50 to 60% of the game. Drew, do you know what he's talking about when he says the second gear? Like, are we talking? Is that considered just the half court offense?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that I know exactly what he's talking about.
Okay.
And I've been pretty clear about this when I've talked about this other places. It's like he went through the gear 1, gear 2, gear 3, and unless he were to go into detail for 15 minutes, I don't feel like I'd have a good grasp exactly of what this means. But I do think that what he's probably referring to are like both half-court offense and offense when another team misses a shot, but they're already back on defense. So you're not just forcing a transition opportunity into a defense that's already set up. I think that's likely what he's talking about, like the in-between of traditional half-court, take it out of bounds on the sideline possession, and maybe a made or missed basket, and most of the team is 4 guys are already back on defense for the other team, and you don't have an advantage. That would be my guess at what he's talking about. I think that they do have to be better in those positions. And I do think that adding Steven Adams back potentially does really help their half court offense. Like, we can't overlook that. Like, Steven and Ja are so good together. Steven and Bain statistically are very good together. Now, Steven, Bain, and Kennard out there together, that should be theoretically a team that is good in the half court. So I think that they at least have more pieces to work with this year. And we know, like, Jaren is a finesse big. Like, he's not a bruiser. And Tillman did a good job in the playoffs last year, but he's not the type of screener really that Steven Adams is. He doesn't get you extra possessions with offensive rebounding the same way Steven Adams can. So I think that they should theoretically be better. And I think adding Patrick St. Andrews to the staff as an assistant, who it really was like a top option for the Grizzlies, like the guy they almost identified right away as we know this guy's really smart. He's worked with Taylor, really good at offense. He helped the Bucks kind of rearrange their offense that championship season. I'd love to get the chance to sort of ask exactly what he did, because I don't follow the Bucks that closely, but I know that he gets a lot of credit for that. And they were able to go out and get him almost right away. So they are very excited about that hire. I think, he'll be on the front of the bench next to Taylor. And we'll see how it works out. But, on paper, this should be a better half court team, you would think.
Yeah. And Taylor Jenkins and Patrick St. Andrews date all the way back to being on the Hawks together. They were the Hawks and then the Bucks on Mike Budenholzer's staff. So Taylor knows him pretty well. Yeah. My question, obviously Steven Adams helps the half court offense. My question is, like, when you filter out the putbacks, when you filter out the second chance points, like, you're like, the Grizzlies half court offense still pretty poor, below average. And that leads to, like, I'm a big enjoy the regular season, guy. Like, enjoy the ride. Don't be like, well, is it going to work in the playoffs? Like, listen, I know that's a first world problems for good NBA teams, but like, that's when you get to we don't know if this is solved until we're in a first round playoff series against whoever it's going to be. If our primary offense doesn't work in the half court and we can't just depend on second chance points, because that's maybe a little bit too variable for the postseason. Like, that's going to be the question mark. Like, that's where also, like, whoever that third guy is, or the fifth starter, who it's going to be. I mean, assuming when John Morant's back, it is just Marcus Smart. Like, does Marcus Smart actually help your half court offense more than Dillon Brooks would have? And that's, again, these are question marks. We don't know. I feel like we really
need by subtraction, baby.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, maybe the most interesting thing to me about this Grizzlies season is just wondering about that. Like, there are people who believe just play anybody, just play any NBA player over Dillon Brooks. Like, he kills your offense, guys. Like, he's a great defender, but also, by the way, he's horrible at rebounding and he's killing your offense. And I was more of like, I don't know. I get too swayed probably by lineup stats and, on-off data. And I'm like, they kill teams, and they've killed teams for years whenever Dillon Brooks is on the court. And that's like whether Jaren's healthy or Ja's healthy. It isn't a typical, well, oh yeah, he plays with Ja and Jaren and Desmond. It's like, no. Like, Desmond wasn't playing back then. And so I don't know. I've been like, I guess there's a method to the madness. And I believe in the Kobe assist. Dillon is the one guy who can get the ball up on the rim at the end of the shot clock, and other guys can't even create throw. So like, I kept coming up with the reasons why it makes sense. And so for me this season, the great experiment is, hey, are we actually better with anybody? As opposed to having Dillon Brooks out there. So I don't know the answer. I would say I'm totally agnostic.
I say that
excited to see what happens.
Joking, right? Yeah, addition by subtraction. Because you're right. Like, he statistically too, I mean, they were very good when Dillon Brooks was on the floor and defensively. But like, my thing with this is, yes, Dillon is bigger than Marcus. Dillon is an effort guy on defense. Like, he does know tendencies and stuff like that. He studies whatever, but Marcus Smart does that too. He's a former defensive player of the year. I just kind of view them as similar players, and I view Marcus Smart as an upgrade offensively. And I know you're a regular season guy, but particularly Marcus Smart as an upgrade in the playoffs. So
yeah, of course. No, I agree completely. Like, if you just ask me straight up, would you rather have Dillon Brooks or Marcus Smart? No, I'd rather have Marcus Smart. Like, I'd rather, I like his playoff pedigree. I like the fact that he is more of a forcing turnovers guy as opposed to just missing shots. I love the deflections. I mean, I'm a steals deflection, block shot kind of guy. And so I love that aspect of it. And of course the playmaking, like the secondary playmaking, the even primary playmaking, the fact that he can, like Dylan Brooks, was like kudos to me after getting 4 assists.
And can I hijack your show real quick and ask you a question?
Oh, that's the best kind of podcasting, please.
Do you think that they're gonna, I don't know how much they're going to ask him to do offensively, because obviously Desmond Bane, basically a point guard too.
Yeah.
But like this idea that Marcus Smart is going to carry this load offensively and he's going to be Dylan Brooks for you defensively.
Yeah.
Are we asking too much here?
Yeah, that's about, you're not hijacking my show. I've been saying that a lot, where I'm like Marcus Smart is supposed to replace Dylan Brooks and Tyus Jones. And for the first 25 games, Ja Morant. Like come on now. Like that's
crazy.
29-year-old Marcus Smart. I know that's the same age Tony Allen was when he came to Memphis. But like he seems like he's on the second half of his career. The Celtics fans they're basically arguing, was he on decline or was he hurt most of last year? So like those aren't the most promising things to hear, where it's like when you're a fan and you're like crossing your fingers, like I sure hope he was hurt. Like that's not a great place to be, that's funny to the Derrick Rose thing, which we haven't talked about. I think we all got excited seeing like a picture of like Derrick and Ja playing together, I assume on the second unit during practice. But like for Derrick Rose, it's like he didn't play last year. Was he hurt or just out of the rotation? And he says he was just out of the rotation. And that's like, I guess I was crossing my fingers that I guess it's better he wasn't hurt, but it seems weird to not choose to play a guy who was totally healthy. So there's a few too many of those for me to be like super optimistic. But now I've lost my train of thought. What was I talking about? Oh, you were asking. Yeah.
If we're asking too much. Yeah.
Yes. 100%. But I think it's going to be fine, because I do think they don't care who brings the ball up the court. They're not a team like most NBA teams have gotten here. I feel like the Grizzlies were kind of on the cutting edge of it, of like, if you get the defensive rebound, go, just bring the ball up the court. Like, don't stop. Don't have Ja Morant come back and get the ball from you. Basically everybody but Steven Adams is going to push it. And I feel like most NBA teams are doing this now. It's become accepted that you want to try to get out and transition immediately. And so I do think they have enough guys, if it is Conchar, or even if it's not, if it's whoever, Roddy or Kennard or, Bane or Smart, whoever gets it is going to go. And they don't do a lot of like, okay, go please create a shot. But I do think the fact that Marcus Smart has done that as like a primary point guard, like a starting point guard for a great team the last few years, that he will be able to do some of that. But again, Taylor Jenkins mentioned, like, this is a challenge for us as a coaching staff, that we're asking Marcus Smart maybe to be our primary wing defender. And also he's going to have a pretty big load on offense. I mean, that's the huge question mark. Maybe that's where Michael Mulder is going to step up. I'm not even joking. I was pretty happy they signed him. Or maybe Shaq Harrison.
For Kentucky, right? He played for Kentucky.
So you're asking me about college basketball. I think that's right. Maybe he played 1 year or something, like he maybe transferred, but he played on the Warriors the year. He played a lot on the Warriors the year the Grizzlies that was the play-in year. The Grizzlies beat them in the play-in. Mulder played a lot on that team. By the way, trivia, Drew, we can wrap up with this.
Okay.
Today, Friday, October 6th is Shaq Harrison's birthday.
Yeah.
Do you know how old he is?
Oh my God. He's my age. He's 28.
30. Turned 30 today.
30.
Third oldest Grizzlies player in camp.
Happy birthday, Shaq, man.
Yeah, happy birthday to Shaq.
In my life.
But... a year older than Marcus Smart. Spring chicken. No, I like Shaq Harrison. Let's close on this. What's beyond? Obviously, we want to see who starts. Even we want to see who's playing together in the open practice, and then on Sunday we want to see who starts. But is there anything else? What's something else that we should have our eyes open, that we're looking for, or that you're looking forward to, particularly for either the open practice or the first preseason game?
Okay. I'll go to first preseason game, kind of into the regular season here. Open practice is fun, great. Yeah. I got a good laugh out of Steven Adams being asked about being the Simon Says champion. I don't know if you've ever been in the building when the Grizzlies have the Simon Says guy, but it's great entertainment.
Never been in the building, but I've seen clips. Yeah.
Yeah. So Steven Adams apparently won that one time in Oklahoma City, and he got asked about that, and he said he basically is very embarrassed that he won, Simon says, which is very funny. He's like, I can't put that on my Tinder profile. But I'm just really pumped to watch Desmond Bane at the beginning of the season. Like it's every single year where you kind of talk to people that are around the team or involved with the team and kind of know what's going on with the summer workouts. And they are always fired up about Desmond Bane. And last year he was on a tear before he hurt his foot. And then he comes back and he was good. And I thought he was getting better at the end of the season. Like he had clearly learned how to play with the toe injury. And now he comes back healthy again. And you just hear all the same things again, man. Like it's like, this is the guy. There was no hesitation about giving him that max contract because he does everything right. Like he does everything that they want him to do. He works really, really hard. I did that series on Dez, where I went back to his hometown last year, and it was funny to hear, his chef, who's one of his friends growing up that now cooks for him, was talking about that he took him on vacation to the beach, and Dez, while everybody else is drinking cocktails, sitting on the beach, Dez is running with a weighted vest in the sand, whatever.
Like, I love that stuff.
The type of guy that he is. So, I think that I'm trying to take it with a grain of salt because Dez gets hyped every single offseason.
Yeah.
But I think this is the year Dez is an all-star good. I think that this is the year for Dez, and I think he's going to have a great season. So that's what I'm looking forward to the most. And then, I mean, just to give you something on this weekend, I think they're going to play their guys on Sunday. So yeah. I don't know about Steven, but everybody else I expect is going to play and play for 20 to 25 minutes. And it should be entertaining basketball, even if it doesn't count in the
exactly.
Record. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm looking forward to, honestly, beyond who starts, just want to see Derrick Rose play basketball.
That'll be cool.
My prediction is Derrick Rose is going to be outstanding in preseason, and he's going to start hot, and then it's going to be how much of that holds up. Like he said, he's been saving himself for 18 months, and so he's going to be fresh. And does it tail off rapidly for our 35-year-old backup point guard?
I'm not talking full vintage Derrick Rose, but half vintage Derrick Rose.
Oh, it's going to be great. I literally think he's going to look
over under 5 half vintage Derrick Rose moments this season. Where are you going? 5.5.
I'm gonna go over. I mean, he's not gonna dunk, is he? But
I don't think so. No.
He is going to, in the preseason, he's going to blow by so many guys. And he's going to look, and he's going to drill some threes and blow by some guys, and he's going to have a 12 points in 6 minutes stint. There's going to be a lot of early victory parades about the Derrick Rose signing. And I'm excited about it.
I like
it. But then I want to see how much does that hold up? Is he still able to continue that? 3 years ago on the Knicks, he had a huge playoffs against the Hawks, I believe. He had a really strong playoff series. And I think in his mind, he's I still have that. I just haven't been asked. Haven't been asked to do it in a while. Well, we're going to be asking. The Grizzlies are asking now. Please, we would like some of that. Can we have it? Anyways, Drew, loved having you on. A lot of fun. Enjoy your Grizzlies coverage. And I look forward to you coming on again sometime.
Thanks, Keith. Appreciate it.